Hot 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. 5:11 is the time. Khilo is here. And like I said, we are here with Hampton Roads Voices. You know what time it is. 5 o'clock every Friday. We bring you this particular program. And tonight's episode is entitled Find Our Girls. We're discussing human and sex trafficking. So I'm not sure if you were underneath a rock or not, but all over Facebook, all over Twitter, and actually all over Instagram too. A couple weeks ago, it was an outcry about 14 African American girls missing. And some say they were all missing within 1 week, but then the police came back, and Washington, D.C. police, they came back and said, no, not actually that. It's just that we put it on our Twitter. But the issue was still there that all of these girls are missing, maybe because of strong likelihood because of human and sex trafficking. So we wanted to have that conversation here tonight and its relevancy here in Hampton Roads, because it is happening here, whether you know it or not. I have great guests in. First and foremost, I have Tanya Streets here. She's the founder of Identifiable Me. That is a nonprofit organization based right here out of the Hampton Roads area. We also have Ebony Valazquez here. She's the Virginia Office of the Attorney General Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator. And also DeDe Wallace, Homeland Security Investigations Victim Services Specialist. Oh, yes, we have legit people here today. Hello, ladies.
Hey there.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing great.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for being here. First and foremost, this conversation is very much needed. It is a quiet epidemic, if I say so myself. So we're just shedding light on it today. So let's hop right in. And you know the deal, Hampton Roads. It is called Hampton Roads Voices. So as we're talking and having this discussion, we want to hear from you. Okay? Give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110. Maybe you are a survivor and we want to hear from you. Maybe you have questions. Maybe anything, any questions, comments, concerns about this particular topic, give us a call. Again, 823-9110. So, Miss Tanya Street, you are actually a survivor of this very epidemic, this crime, actually. Can you give us a little bit of your story?
Absolutely. So I was actually just graduating out of high school, and so I was 18 years old at the time. And I do need to kind of preference this because I was a single mom. And, but for me, I graduated at the top half of my class. I wasn't going to let being a single mom deter me from pursuing my education. And so, I decided to just go to a local community college. And so I was really excited about that. And I had gotten a scholarship and, went on ahead and just started preparing, taking summer classes to get ready for September. And we decided to go on a senior field trip. And I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. I wasn't seeing anyone. And so, one of my best friends, her best friend, you know how you have that situation, right? And, well, her best friend's boyfriend's cousin.
Okay.
Right?
Yes,
right?
we all been there.
Yes. He, said he would take me out. I didn't know him at all, but because there was some kind of, thread here, I knew someone who knew him. I felt it was safe. Also, I do need to tell you that I was sexually abused from the time I was 7 to 14.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And so when you think about just kind of the feelings that I was having, and I just really like to hone in on this because when you think of someone who's being trafficked or someone you may believe is prostituting, right? I like to just kind of challenge that thought by saying, who likes to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Who says, this is what I want to do? And in my case, I was already feeling just loads of emotions, that were negative. Abandonment, rejection, low self-esteem. I was experiencing a lot of these things because the fact that I was being sexually abused hadn't been dealt with properly, right? And so here I am dealing with that issue, not having close connection to family and friends, being a single mom at 18. And, so that's kind of where I was. I was suicidal. Like all this was kind of happening. I think it's really important for people to know that and get that. So I go out on this date, right, blind date, and I'm excited about it, of course. And I meet the guy, and he is handsome. I always say, a lot of us girls have those checklists, right? And we say what we want, you know, and one of the things on my checklist was that I wanted a guy with great teeth. I know it sounds crazy. Okay. I mean, it's just something beautiful.
I like teeth too. I like the mouth.
Yes. He had a gorgeous, you know, a gorgeous grill there, you know, and just very handsome. It doesn't look like, you know, what I understood what a pimp would look like. You know, media tells us what things look like and we believe it. And so here I am. I meet this guy. It's great. We have a fabulous night. He took the initiative on everything and I didn't have to pay for anything, you know, things like that. And I just want to slow this time down for a minute because it was just kind of at night and I had basically told him my entire life story. I actually told him my entire life story. And we're sitting on a park bench and it's nighttime and, you know, I like to say the moon and the stars were out. It was just very romantic. I hadn't felt that. And I don't think, actually, at that time, I never felt that. Wow. I didn't know what that was like, but I saw it on movies. You know, I heard about it in songs. And so I felt like it was right, you know. And we're sitting on this park bench and I had just finished kind of like just telling him my entire life story. And we're going back and talking about the sexual abuse. And he says to me, "I'm sorry that happened to you." No one had ever said that to me. No one, not my parents, anyone in my church community, neighborhood, school, counselor. No one had ever said those words. So when he said that to me, for me, looking back on it, I realized that I was looking for acceptance, right? I was looking for worth. I was looking for value. And I was looking for validation. So to say something like, "I'm sorry that happened to you," right. I'm like, that is love, right? And so, of course, my heart is doing pitter patters. I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. You know, maybe he's the one. Now, I will tell you, he was 28. And, you know.
And you were 18.
I was 18. So here, you know, that really wasn't an issue for me because I had a kid. I needed someone mature. I mean, it seemed like it fit everything. Yeah. So we dated May through August. No red flags for me. It didn't seem like, you know, there was anything I should be afraid of. He wasn't violent. He was always very generous, kind, and he was kind to my son. You know, I'm looking for things like that. And so we had a great relationship, all right, throughout this time. So August comes up or September when I'm about to start school full time, about to go into my first semester. And I get a phone call from him. And he's like, "Hey, just want to, you know, kind of catch up with you and talk about some of the things we have been discussing over these, you know, the summer months." And he said, "You know, I've been watching you over the last 4 months and I see that, you know, you're very nurturing and, you know, like, you know, all these positive things." And I'm like, yeah, that's true. You know, yeah, you know, you're a strong Black woman and confident. And I'm like, yeah. And he said, you know, we've been talking about like our future. And he said, you know, how are we going to do some of the things that you aspire to do with you going to school for early childhood education degree? Because that's what I was offered with the scholarship. And he said that he had worked for the post office. And so, you know, I'm like, well, you know, we love each other, blah, 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 you know. And he's like, no, really, you know, how is that going to happen? He said, so, you know, I want to talk to you about something because I'm looking for a business partner. And I'm like, okay. He says, I'm going to say a word to you, and I want you to tell me what comes to your mind when I say this word. Okay. He says, madam. And I'm like, stagecoaches in 1820s, right? Mm-hmm. He said, good try. Try again. Madam. And I'm like, okay. Well, a madam is, I don't know, an older woman who takes care of younger women. They kind of, you know, sell their bodies for sex, and she promises to take care of them, and they live with her. And he says, yep. My mom is a madam. You know, now I need you to understand, right? Just as we're hearing about human trafficking and we're like, what? Right. It's not over there. It's kind of traumatizing.
Yeah.
You know, and so when he's telling me this, my mind is blown. I can't fathom. I don't even understand what he's saying to me, but I have to pull it together because this is a grown man who loves me. Right. So I can't, you know, kind of treat him or disrespect him. You know how we feel like we need to be in a situation like that. And so so he's just kind of telling me about it, and I'm like, wow, you know, that's something. And he says, well, my mom is giving me the business. And I'm like, okay, you know, wow. You know, and I'm taking this in, and he says, yeah, and, you know, I've been looking for a queen, you know. Now, knowing what I know today, I know what a queen is when it comes to, and I'm saying this on purpose. When we listen in our culture, we talk about pimping and hoeing. Yeah. Right. And we talk about the bottom girl. You know, she's his queen. You know, she's his most loyal servant, most loyal girl. And so I didn't know that. You know, I'm thinking Cinderella.
Right.
You know?
That type of queen.
That type of queen.
Yeah, royalty.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's talking, and he said, you know, I really want to bring you in on this. And he's like, you know, we have girls already. It's already business that's set up. I really need someone to come in and help me manage the money and, you know, all of this. And I'm, you know, kind of thinking about it. And then he kind of pauses and he says, but, you know, if you're going to come in, the girls are going to need to respect you. And so you're going to have to, you know, kind of go out there sometime. And I was like, no, no, I'm not going to do that. He says, you're not? No, I'm not going to do that. He says, why? I said, because I'm not a hoe. He says, you're not a hoe, huh? Nope. So, well, how many guys have you slept with? And, you know, the first night we were together, I told him everything in my life and left no rock unturned. Wow. Right? So I'm like, okay, I see your point. He says, so what about those STDs? Not getting anything from your baby's daddies. He's not giving you anything, right? At least my girls are getting paid for what they're doing. So what does that make you? Who's the real hoe? I'm telling you, at that moment, you know, I felt like I was actually judging people who I thought were hoes, right? Because, you know, I, in the conversation, I said to him, I said, well, you know, I'm a classy hoe. I mean, people don't know what I'm doing. You know, I'm not a ho-ho, you know, you know. Yeah. And I felt like when he called me out, that's what I felt like he did, you know, and I grew up in church and, you know, I understood you don't judge. And so that is honestly, when he said that, I'm like, look at me. You're right. I'm dirty. You're right. I'm not worth anything. You're right. I'm this, I'm that. And, so at that, like that awkward part, he was like, you know what? I'll call you back. Wow. Hung up.
The art of manipulation. Wow.
Coercion.
Yeah.
You know, which is in the definition of human trafficking.
Wow.
And that's an awesome thing.
And I also want to, you know, pinpoint for those who are listening, because I'm hearing this for the first time as well, even though I've read her story, that at this time you hadn't really dealt with what you went through as a child. Right. So he's kind of, you know, tap dancing on your insecurities, on the things that you didn't deal with yet.
My vulnerabilities, which we talk about all the time, that is what traffickers, that's their job. Their job is to look for those who are vulnerable so they can exploit them and make their money. That's the way it is.
Okay, so that's part one. DeDe and Ebony, hold tight. We're just, you know, getting this story out. We'll take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll get part two of her story and start really getting into this epidemic, human and sex trafficking. Hampton Rose Voices, Find Our Girls. Please give us a call if you have any questions or if you want to share your story or anything of the sort. We do welcome that because it is Hampton Rose Voices, okay? 823-9110, 823-9110 is the number. Keep it locked right here. It's Hot 91. So Khilo is here for Hampton Rose Voices, Find Our Girls. We are discussing human and sex trafficking. I have three beautiful women here that will be, our expert guests. They actually expert in this, particular topic. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We have Tanya Street here, founder of Identifiable Me. She was just sharing her story, and we will get back to that. We also have Ebony Valazquez here. She's a Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator. And we also have DeDe Wallace here, Homeland Security Investigations Victim Services Specialist. And before we get into the law side and what we're actually doing about it, we're going to go ahead and get into the show. Now, right before we get to part 2 of Tanya Street's story, we do have a phone call, so let's get into that. Hi, 91, you're live in the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, my name is Leisha.
Hey, Leisha, can you do me a favor and turn your radio down, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. What's your question, comment, or concern?
I was actually calling in regards to the lady that was speaking about her personal story. I can relate to the age and everything as far as being molested from 7 to 14 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is a huge topic that's not talked about, especially in the Black community, a lot. And just even speaking about it on air is just crazy. I didn't get to tell my mom until I was actually 23. And it's still something I'm struggling with to actually tell my whole family. But I just wanted to share that taking that step, but actually sharing it and letting these women know, and these young girls, that they have a voice because they feel like they don't at all.
Yeah.
And just saying and letting them know that they can, let them know that someone is here for you. And in that moment, you feel like you don't have no one you can tell or you can trust.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate your comment.
No problem. I'll be listening in and hearing you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So, Tanya, before we got off the air, and just to put out a disclaimer that, since we're talking about human and sex trafficking, there won't be any cursing or vulgar language, but there may be some type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Explicit, but not really explicit. Just, be careful with the kids in the car and things like that. You don't have to worry about it not being family friendly, but it is about human and sex trafficking. So just letting our audience know about that. So before we got off air, Tanya, you were telling us that you went on this fantastic date with this guy. And then after a few months of dating, well, more than a few months of dating, he introduced you to a quote unquote business opportunity in which he wanted you to be perhaps a madam. And then he suggested that you, in order for you to gain respect with the girls that you will be taking care of or being a madam of, you have to get out there yourself. And then he tap danced, like I said, on your insecurities, on what you've told him, kind of threw it back in your face in a sense to use that to make you think about it. So part 2, tell us, how did you get into it? How did you, what did he do?
Yeah, definitely. So he did really listen well, which is what attracted me to him. And so he hangs up and for about 2 weeks. And I remember I started school, and anybody who knows me, they knew that I was upbeat and very happy and outgoing and adventurous. But during this time, I was completely just depressed, because I didn't have him in my life. He would come get me every weekend. We'd have outings. And what's also important is that the community that I did have, well, because he would come and get me all the time, I no longer even had that. So at this time in my life, right as I was graduating high school, my mom had put me out. So I had my own place, right? And so I had a few friends that would come by. So even those relationships, just became, the visitations became few and far in between, that kind of thing. So, so when September came around, I started school, I really didn't have anyone I could talk to. I didn't have anyone I could say, hey, this is going on. Right. And so, those 2.5 weeks, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to honestly hear his voice again. I knew that I had to say yes. I knew I had to. So he calls back and, he's very matter of fact. And he said, what's your answer? And I said, yes, I'll do it. And he changed What? Oh my God. I'm so proud of you. I knew you'd do it. That's my girl. You know, that whole thing. And that is what I needed. That's what I wanted to hear, you know, that part of him. And, you know, looking back on it, the entire time that I was most of the time when I was being trafficked by him, I just wanted that moment. I just wanted those 4 months. You know, that's what I was fighting for. So, so we're having this conversation, where I said I would. And, you know, I tried to gain some type of control, you know, and I said, well, you know, don't hit me, you know, because I don't go for that. And he's like, oh girl, that's old school. What you been watching? You know, we don't do stuff like that. You know, this is a business. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm figuring he knows more than I do. Okay. All right. You know, and, you know, so for me, I was the new girl coming in. Right. And so I had to, looking back at it, of course, I had to prove myself. And so, you know, meeting the girls the first time and, you know, having this relationship, they all played the part of me coming in as the queen. You know, there really was a real bottom and real queen there who was an older woman who took care of the rest of the women, you know, and, you know, she definitely, played the part so that I would feel comfortable and so that I would stay. And, so it was good, you know, as far as, not feeling, it's just so manipulative throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
It's so well planned. Everybody plays their part until they get you in. And, you know, when we listen to culture, to our music, and we hear some of these lines and some of these songs, and they're, you know, they're talking, you see this played out, which is really important to me, especially because we're talking about, you know, our Black girls.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so there, you know, when you look at pimpology and the culture and the lines they use, they're real lines, you know, about pimping and hoeing. It's a real thing, you know, and so we don't think about that pimp's hoe, right, in a way where he's, you know, beating her. Not is he just beating her, but the buyers are beating her. They're torturing her. You know, she's not getting paid. She's not getting the money. She gets whatever her trafficker gives her. It seems like she might be holding dollars or whatever, but that's just to make us think that this is a good thing. You know, that it makes us think that she's being taken care of, and that is not the case. You know, we have to put on the act. It's, you know, we have to perform, you know, through the sex acts and make buyers think, yes, we do want you, but we don't. You know, when we talk about trauma, you know, I had to become another person, like not just perform, but in my mind, in my being, you know, I had to separate myself in order to get through that, because who can do that?
Yeah.
You know?
And really quick, if you can tell us, how did you escape that?
Okay. For me, and just to remind you, everybody's story is different.
Right.
You know, and so for me, I was actually in a DC area, and, I had been with him on and off for about 2 years. And, you know, there's, in a point I was making before, there's this thing that we know that every pimp breaks his hoe, right? We've heard that in our culture, right? And that is very true. That is the goal. So although he got me in, there was a process to breaking me down. And so through this process, I really got to a point where there was no turning back. I mean, I lost all value for myself. I didn't see myself any bigger than or larger than dirt. You know, that's how I felt and believed it. And so there was this time, you know, this point in my life where I was in a very, very low place. And I knew that this was basically my lot in life. Right. And it was at this time where, this opportunity came. And so I was in DC at the time, and it was a really rough weekend. I had lost money. Money was stolen. You know, a couple things had happened, and I was punished for it. So to punish to punish me all of us were punished. And so during that time, when we went to DC, you know, we called it, we walk in the track. And so normally he would arrange where we would go and what we would do. But when he put us out on a track, it was up to us to figure that out, work together and meet, you know, the quota that he set. And so he set a high quota because of what I had done, and we all were responsible for doing this. So here we are, you know, working, and it's like 3 a.m. on a Sunday. It's like just the worst, right? And so a vehicle comes to pick me up, and I go to tell him where to go, and he doesn't listen to me. So, you know, I'm kind of running things down by him. I'm like, this is what you need to do when you get to the next stop sign.
I'm sorry, he as in
the buyer.
Okay.
Sorry. And I say to the buyer, you know, when you get to the next stop sign, make a right. He didn't. So I say, when you get to the next stop sign, make a right. And he didn't. And you know how you get that gut feeling like this is not right. I mean, it came so strong. I knew, you know, I was thinking of all kind of things to do and, you know, to get out of the situation. It wasn't working. He locked the car doors. I mean, it was just like really tense. And so he wasn't moved by my frantic nature, which was like, you know, for me, it was like, okay, this is some crazy, scary movie stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to stop at some point, and that's when I'm going to make my move. So we're driving, and we're driving quite a ways. I remember seeing DC, just the buildings, and it was just like far out the window. And finally, he pulls into this chain link fenced in parking lot area, and he cuts off the car, cuts off the lights, and he looks at me and he says, "Give me your money." Now, for me, I'm like, I can't, because I just got punished for losing money and all that, like just a few minutes ago, right? My nose is swollen and, you know, and I'm like, so I'm just like, I know he don't understand, but no, I'm not doing that. So he pulls out a knife. He comes over on top of me, and we're struggling. I mean, we're struggling for this thing. And, you know, seriously, in my mind, I'm thinking, I have to make my trafficker, right? I have to make him proud of me. I cannot let this guy take my money, right? Because I still am trying to earn my spot. I'm still trying to get that man back. You know, I'm not thinking at all he manipulated me. I'm thinking this entire time that this is my fault. I'm where I am today because of my choices. You know, I didn't play the game right. Right. And so, you know, I'm sitting there, we're struggling, and, you know, but he's a man. So, you know, he's gaining on me.
Absolutely. Right.
So and here, you know, for me, I grew up Christian. Right. And I promise you, at this time in my life, I really felt like, you know, I had totally disconnected myself from God, right? And so I'm sitting there, we're struggling, and I'm sitting in the seat. He's on top of me, and I hear an audible voice on the right side, and the window is up. So, and I always say that because it's just like it echoes, kind of bounces off the window, and the voice says, "What are you doing? You have a son." And it was like my mama bear rose up, you know, like, wait a minute, I have something to live for other than this, you know, other than this moment, you know, I'm not going to give up, not here. You know, it just rose up really big. And as soon as I heard it, it was like my eyes were open to, like, I became present is what happened. And, you know, I throw the take the money out, you know, I throw it to him, and I go, here, you can have the money. And he pushes me out the car, and he takes off just like that. And, I'm down on the ground, and I'm screaming, I'm crying, and I'm really angry with God. I mean, I know this just happened, but at the same time, it's just, you know, there's lots of people going on inside my head, right? Yeah. I'm angry with God at that moment. I'm on the ground, I'm on my knees, and I'm screaming because now I'm going to really get it, right? What's going to happen to me when I see him again, right? How am I going to tell him this story? What am I going to do? And I get up, dust myself off. I go out walking towards the sidewalk, you know, and I throw my hands up in the air, and I go, God, help me, like that. You know, because I realized that I had no ID, had no money, I had nothing on me. I was, again, abandoned, rejected, right? All those feelings that are there again. And when I did that, a police officer heard me, and the sirens went off. And, you know, here they're coming. Of course, for me, I'm thinking, crap,
Right. Yeah.
How is this night going to end? Like, will this ever be over?
Right.
And so he calls me over and, he's like, what are you doing out here? And I'm like, oh my God. And I go, what do you think I'm doing out here? So he calls me over closer and he says, what are you doing out here? Right?
You.
So, yes. And it was the same thing that I heard in the car, right? It got my attention and I broke down like a baby, told him the name of my pimp, everything. I was like, his name is, and he said, listen, promise me you won't come back out here and I'll make sure you go get your son because there was night care for kids. And he was in another city from where I live. So I needed to get back to my son and also get back home.
Yeah.
And so he took care of that for me. So,
wow. What a story. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel just really blessed. And, I hear lots of stories and I just don't hear my story. I hear stories of victims all the time. And, some are good and some are really not so good.
Yeah.
Well,
that's laying the foundation. So when we come back, we're really going to get into the law part of it and what the city is doing about it, what our task forces are doing about it. We have two representatives here, DeDe Wallace and Ebony Valazquez. They're both from Ebony is from Hampton Roads, the Virginia Office of the Attorney General, and she's a Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator. And Miss DeDe is Homeland Security Investigations Victim Services Specialist. So when we come back, I promise we're going to get into what's happening, okay? Because it is happening in Virginia, but we have to get down to the bottom of that. Become a part of the conversation, 757-823-9110, 823-9110 to share your story, to ask questions, or what have you, okay? Just one song and we'll be right back. It's Hot 91. 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Find our girls. That is the episode tonight of Hampton Roads Voices. And we have three guests here. Tanya Streets, Ebony Valazquez, and DeDe Wallace. They are all experts on human and sex trafficking. That's what we're talking about. And it's a very quiet epidemic. People don't know about it. It could be happening right underneath your nose. It is happening right underneath our noses, and we don't know. So this is what this show is all about: getting us thinking, getting us aware about what's happening in Hampton Roads. And human and sex trafficking is most definitely happening here. We do have a phone call, so let's get to that, and then we'll start our discussion. Hi, 91. What is your question, comment, or concern?
Oh, my name is Olivia, and I used to be in the life. I was actually in it from 19. I was in foster care, and I was in New York. And I was in it until I was like 23, and I had to basically run away from my son and everything I had. And what I'm saying is that a lot of these girls who are missing, the thing is a lot of these guys prey on people who don't have anyone. A lot of them are watching the girls who they feel like they have no parents. A lot of them are actively watching these girls. And it really breaks my heart because nothing has changed in the past 10 years. These guys are everywhere. These girls get in trouble. They get a criminal record. They get judged. And these guys get away with it unless they testify against them.
Wow.
And I have to walk through. My record is like now the stuff has fell off. But for years, I had to walk around with that on me because nobody cared that, okay, yeah, you are... you was grown up, you know what you did, you was 19 years old, you know what you did, but being emotionally abused and being coerced to do things you don't want to do and being forced to carry that on you the rest of your life, that, it's a lot. And I just wanted to, let people know if there's anyone out there going through that, it does get better. There is life after that. And I'll just say people just need to watch out for their daughters and just watch out for them because these predators, they're waiting. They used to go to foster homes. They used to wait outside and try and catch girls from group homes who looked like they was going through something and try to sweet talk them and have the main girls sweet talk them too. And before they know it, they couldn't leave. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Olivia, for sharing your comment. I do appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's get into how prevalent this is. Yeah. So DeDe, Tanya, Ebony, how prevalent is sex and human trafficking in Norfolk and, the Hampton Roads area? And is there really a cause for real concern?
I would say, and this is Ebony.
That's Ebony.
And I would say that it is a we have to be more looking out for the signs. I think it's more of an awareness part, and just knowing that it does exist, and not just looking at it as these are women are prostitutes, or these are women that that they want to do it. We never know the background story, and it's all about changing the mindset. I think that's what it is. And I think it's just bringing the awareness out there and just showing, hey, just kind of be more mindful of some of the things that are going on in your community. Kind of just, seeing if you see somebody that's once were themselves and not themselves, don't be afraid just to say, hey, if you need help, let me know, or if you can talk to me, just being that mindful. And that's what what we're trying to bring out now, is just the awareness and what to look for, and just know to be mindful of what's going on.
Okay, so you would say, well, DeDe, what do you think? Is it a cause for real concern? Is it really happening in this area?
Absolutely, it's happening in this area. Virginia is listed on about 15 out of our states for the prevalence of what's taking place. We're definitely seeing it all over the state of Virginia. We do exactly like Ebony and the callers stated, who thank you for having the courage to come forth and share your story with us. Absolutely, that makes a difference, because that brings awareness. That says to somebody else, if you see something, call somebody. Don't do this alone. There's people that want to support you. There's people that want to make a difference in your life and make it so you're not feeling the isolation that keeps you with the trafficker. Because if you feel like nobody's out there to care about you, the only person that you're hearing in your ear is that trafficker. And we definitely want to have them having somebody else say, come out of the shadows. We want to help you.
All righty. Nicely put, DeDe. Yes, come out of the shadows. They want to help you. So how, really quick, how new is the human trafficking task force here in this area, Hampton Roads?
It is very, very new. We literally, we got the grant in, I believe, October, November timeframe, but we weren't set in place yet until really January. I just recently got on board, but we have started, and so we're making big moves and strides to really get the task force up and running, and we want to just make a more awareness. So the task force is also partnered with the Samaritan House, so it is in a partnership with the Homeland Security Office of the Attorney General of Virginia, the Samaritan House, and then we have the core members of 5 different cities, and that's Hampton, Newport News, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Chesapeake. Okay. And that's just where we had to start. And we do have partnering agencies as well. But right now, that's where our focus is on the core members, and so that we can start to have a starting point. And that's what we're looking for. So we're fairly new. We're starting to actually start getting our wheels in gear and starting to getting everything together so we can really start moving forward.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that it is in place. We're going to take one more quick break. Miss Tanya Street has to leave, but I do appreciate you coming here and sharing your insight and sharing your story. It is greatly appreciated, because first of all, it takes great strength and courage to share your story. You could be easily embarrassed, you can be ashamed, you can be a lot of things.
Well, I was at some point.
I'm sure you were.
Yes,
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I praise God that you overcame that, and that not only overcame the situation, but you actually overcame those feelings, because I'm sure you went through, well, I'm not sure because I don't know.
Lots of healing.
Right. It's lots of feelings, or you probably were blaming yourself, and just a whole lot of things. So I commend you. My heart goes out to you. I praise God for you because you're doing a work, you know, in this community. So thank you for being here.
Thank you
we
for
would
having me.
definitely be in touch.
Yes.
And I hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you.
But we still have DeDe Wallace here and Ebony Valazquez here. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about Find Our Girls right here in Hampton Roads, the human and sex trafficking quiet epidemic. Give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110, and make sure you keep it locked. It's Hot 91.
Norfolk State University Broadcasting, WNSB, Norfolk, Chesapeake, 91.1 FM, and HD1, Virginia's only full-time urban public radio station, Hot 91.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB FM. Thank you for listening. That's right. Thank you for listening. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul, like you just heard. This is Hampton Roads Voices. Find Our Girls. We're discussing human and sex trafficking, and not only that, a closer look at human and sex trafficking on brown and black girls. Okay, so we have two experts here, and when I say they are experts, we got them. We got legit people in here. Ebony Valazquez, she's from the Virginia Office of the Attorney General. She's a Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator. And also DeDe Wallace, she's the Homeland Security Investigations Victim Services Specialist. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Before we got off air, and then before, we get into it, Hampton Roads, we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110. I will not be asking for your name. We're going to make sure that DJ Illmatic Beats, who's answering our phones today, won't be asking for your name. So if you need help, listen to me. If you need help, if you're stuck in a situation like this in which, you're being forced to sell your body for money, or if you just need help in any type of a situation having to do with this, please give us a call. You can ask these two for questions, and you will remain anonymous. We're going to get on the next break. I'm going to get you some phone numbers for you so that you can seek help and things of that nature. Okay. We are keeping you anonymous. Again, 823-9110, 823-9110. And like I said, a little bit later, I'm giving you some phone numbers to get you some help. Okay? All right. So, ladies, we said before that it is prevalent in this area. Sex and human trafficking is prevalent in the Hampton Roads area and in Virginia. DeDe, you said it was ranked about 15th amongst the 50 states for having the highest. Could you say that again? The highest.
So the National Human Trafficking Hotline,
Okay.
What they do is they rate the states for how many calls come in. Not so much the cases, but how many, like the call volume, how many people are calling about people they've seen. And we rank up on the 15th for that because of how many episodes they've seen. Gotcha.
Okay. So, you were talking about, Ebony, the Human and Trafficking Task Force being relatively new, pretty new. But both of you guys can answer this. What is the purpose and the goals that, this task force is setting out to do? And, tell us again when the task force was established.
Well, the goal of the task force is just to, just be able to help the victims of human trafficking, to be able and to make awareness. We want to be able to make the communities aware of that there is an issue. Because, in some people's minds, there isn't an issue. They just see, it's a prostitute on the street. But we want them to know that, it may not always be the case. And it's just not happening on the street. It's happening in our schools. It's happening in our universities. Mm-hmm. And we just want everybody to be aware of that it can be just as vulnerable to anybody. And so that awareness piece is definitely one of the goals that we have, for the task force, as well as helping our victims, through trauma-informed and, just being able to know that we can provide certain services and it's services that aren't readily available. We can be able to bridge those gaps to make sure that those services are there for our victims of human trafficking.
What we'd like to take is a victim-centered approach, which means that we recognize that the burden of proof a lot of the times on these cases are going to be coming from human beings. It's not a drug case. It's not, a material our witnesses are human beings. And we have, as law enforcement, for a very long time, have wanted to make our society safe, and we take the bad guys off the street. But what we're not doing is making sure that the victims are safe, that we're not going to see them in another vulnerable position, that we're not looking at their immediate needs. So we have decided by, having an agency and other law enforcement, local law enforcement officers who it's a victim-centered approach. So we want to not just put the bad guy away. We want to make sure that our victim is safe and secured and gets whatever needs they need, whatever resources we can find for them, that we address that. And we're not just looking at the court case, that we're looking at the totality of what we see.
That's awesome, because that's needed. Some of these victims haven't lived quote unquote normal lives in so long, so try to get them acclimated is very important. And you did say, Ebony, that you guys partnered with the Samaritan House.
Yeah, so the Samaritan House is also a core member of the task force, and what they have a grant as well, and so they have actually, through their grant, they're able to create 3 new shelters just for human trafficking victims, and actually staff counseling, case managers for human trafficking victims, legal advocates for victims that have their own case, or their own pending charges, to help them as well go through the court system. So, what we're trying to do is just, like she said, have a victim-centered approach, because we, it's not just because, it's a case. We want to make sure that we're actually helping.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did say that I was going to get a phone number on our next break, but I have it right now. If you are a victim and you are stuck and you're forced to sell your body, or you're forced in a ring, or what have you, the phone number to the Samaritan House is 757-430-2120, 757-430-2120. If you are not in any danger and you want to get in on this conversation, please do give us a call. It is called Hampton Rose Voices for a reason. We want to hear your voice. 757-823-9110, 823-9110. Now, ladies, like you said, DeDe, and according to a news article, the state of Virginia had the 15th highest number of human trafficking cases reported to a national hotline last year. And, some experts think Virginia's central location along interstate corridors make it vulnerable to crime. That is what they said, quote, vulnerable to crime. What about this location, Virginia, that makes it kind of prime for this type of crime?
Well, we have 95, which goes up and down. So that's an easy one for, tourists. That's anybody who's crossing from state to state. You've got 81, 66, 64. So you have a whole bunch of roadways that people travel. You could be talking about people in trucks like semis. You can be talking about people who are trying to move. We're not what we call a destination spot. A lot of the times it's not going to be, especially when it comes to labor trafficking, we're not the end result. But we may encounter people as they're going across. Because unfortunately, traffickers don't really take vacations. So if they want to move their victims from one place to the other, they're going to work them, and they're going to move them from place to place. So if you have a trafficker that's from New York, maybe he wants to go to Florida, and so they're going to work the girls up and down 95.
Oh, wow.
Because it's easy to get off on 95, and you can find a whole bunch of those type of hotels, and you can post the girls.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. We're kind of in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we also have a state that has a lot of money.
Okay.
Our median on the whole, when you look at it, especially down here, cost of living is very high. So that means you have people that have a lot of money. And if you have a lot of money, unfortunately, that means you can be buying human beings with it. So that's, if you have that supply and demand type of thing taking place, if you've got the money to pay for it, you're going to have the supply and you're going to have the demand with it.
Right. Okay, so we heard before Tanya left, we heard her story and how she got lured in. But what are some ways or some not even symptoms, some signs or anything like that? How can a perpetrator lure in their victims? How can first let's get that. How can they get lured in?
So one of the things that you could do, it could be as simple as going to the mall. like something similar to what happened with Tanya. So you go to the mall and you're looking for somebody vulnerable. You're not looking for somebody who, if I approach you, you're going to, accept a compliment. It's going to be the person that puts their head down, because you're going to be susceptible to that vulnerability, and I can pull you in that way. We've all been high schoolers. We all know what it feels like to be on the outside when all your friends have a boyfriend. And unfortunately, social media can also open up those vulnerabilities, because our kids look at social media as an outlet to put all their business out there. So if you're having a really bad day and you decide, you want to tweet about it, or you want to put it on Facebook, or you want to do anything, and I'm watching it, because I want to look for somebody in your locale, I can start following you, and I'm waiting for that moment that you open that up, that vulnerability. And I might start talking to you, and I might start, what we'd say, like grooming and pulling you in, so that I'm laying my foundation for when I say, can we meet up? And then you're going to want to do that. Or I'm looking for somebody who's a single mom. We had a case up north, and he looked for single moms. And then once he got the single moms, he kidnapped their babies and then kept the babies until they gave him enough money to get them back. And he didn't tell them where they were being taken.
Wow.
So it's finding the vulnerability. It's profiling the victim to know what they need, which if you're a foster kid, like one of our amazing callers called in, if you're in a foster care and you feel that alone and you feel like you have no support, the first person that offers you that support, that's going to be a draw to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, we want to hear from you. 823-9110, 823-9110 if you want to get in on this conversation. So, really, this can happen to just about anyone. So, I don't want people to hear this epidemic and say, hey, that can never be me. No, like, that's crazy. Yeah, it really could be you. So what are some what are some ways to avoid, being a potential victim? How can we, avoid that?
Well, for one, I would just say is just be cautious. Don't take whatever you hear for face value. Just know know your group, know your people. And it's hard to say, that you would never. It's hard to say that you can avoid it, but just be more mindful is what I would say. Because you never know, like in Tanya's story, he was saying all the right things, and and then some manipulation, and he was charming, and that's what he needed to hear. And so sometimes it's hard to gauge that, and so, but it's just, kind of just being aware of, who you're hanging with or who you're talking with, even in your group, because it could be like another friend that just approached you that's a friend of a friend. And just know your social network, stop posting so much on Facebook, stay out of the social media so much, and putting so much out there, because that's what people look at. You don't think that people are really looking at that or tracking that. They're like, oh, that's just my friend. But it could be your friend of your friends. Your friends and friends can look at your page, and you just don't know. You don't know who's that other person, or somebody who is not even who you think is your friend. It's not your friend. So it's just being mindful, and just kind of just guarding yourself and making yourself more aware of different things that people are saying and what people will play off of.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have, I would think, I'm not an expert, but I would think if you have a support system that is nearby, like if you have friends, if you have sisters, cousins, mom, dad, anybody that you can speak to, when you are dating someone or when somebody comes and, they're telling you all the right things, it's good to share your business sometimes with that support system, because somebody can say, that's not sounding right, girl, or, I don't think you should do that. And sometimes that can add, that extra layer of protection for you if you have that. But if you don't and you are looking for help right now, the phone number to Samaritan House is the following: 757-430-2120, 430-2120. We're going to just take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with human and sex trafficking. Find our girls, Hampton Roads Voices. I have DeDe Wallace here, and I also have Ebony Valazquez. And we want to have you. on air. So give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110. Get in on this conversation, ask the questions that you need, and make sure you keep it locked. It's Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. Khilo is here. Hampton Roads Voices. Find our girls, human and sex trafficking. That's what we're talking about right here in the Hampton Roads area. Oh, yes, it is happening right here underneath our noses. And I was just talking to our expert guest off the air, and it's actually it's a booming business. Okay, I have Ebony Valazquez here. She's a Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator, and also DeDe Wallace. She's a victim services specialist for Homeland Security Investigations. And ladies, you were saying something very, very interesting, and I was dumbfounded and shocked and surprised. And what were you saying as far as, there are gangs here in the state of Virginia who, instead of moving guns and moving drugs, they're actually moving human beings, girls.
They are, absolutely. We're seeing all over where there are gang activities. They're moving our victims, both male and female, as a better product now than what guns and drugs are, because it's cheaper. It's less buy-in to get the product, and then if we lose it, we'll just go out and replace it without having to put any money out, and I can have more of the victims in the car with me and not worry about being pulled over. I can put them in hotels, and there's less chance of being caught, and they're so easy to replace. It's really sad that we've gotten to the point that the gangs have recognized that this is such an easy thing to do, and we're overlooking it because we're not looking in that direction.
Absolutely. And just like I asked you off air, because I was very surprised, so making money from drugs and making money from human trafficking, is that not? I mean, I thought that making money from human trafficking would be a little bit less, but you guys are saying that it's actually more money in that than selling drugs.
Yes, because you can have a girl work all day, and you can charge $150 for 1 hour, or and so with that you're going to be making more money than what you were making with drugs. If you get your drugs seized, it's going to cost you a boatload of money to stop back up on drugs. For girls, you can just go back on the internet and start and prey on vulnerable women, and it's free.
Yeah. Wow. We do have a phone call, so we'll go to the phone lines. Hi, 91, please share your comment, question, or concern.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nisha, and I'm a survivor of domestic violence and an advocate for awareness. And doing the advocacy work, one thing I wanted to learn more about was human trafficking. So I took a human trafficking course with the Virginia Beach Justice Initiative. And one thing that I learned is that with the traffickers, people have this misconception that it only happens in like bad neighborhoods or seedy areas or motels and things like that. And it made me think about an experience that I experienced maybe about 5 years or so ago when I was in the middle of my abusive relationship. I was at a grocery store in a nice neighborhood, local area, and a gentleman approached me, and he told me I was too pretty to look so sad, and, how was my day going? And I told him I was fine, and he said he noticed that I kept looking at the prices of cereal and putting it back and looking at it again and putting it back. So he told me that he asked me, would I be interested in meeting some friends who could offer me a job where I could travel, I could get nice clothes, jewelry, be able to afford cereal without being concerned with the prices or anything like that. So I asked him if he was asking me to be an escort. And he kind of laughed and he said, no, nothing along those lines. I'm saying you could just be able to afford anything you want. You don't have to work too many hours. You make your own hours. I told him I wasn't interested. So I noticed that throughout me grocery shopping, if I was in one aisle, he wasn't too far away throughout the whole time that I was there. If I was by the milk, he was by the eggs. If I was by the deli section, he was by the bread. Just something just following me throughout the process. And then as I left, the one thing I noticed that I didn't pay attention to before is that he never had any groceries. When I relayed this to the class, the instructor said, 99% chance that was a spotter. You know, you said you were in the middle of your abusive relationship. You probably walked with your head down. You looked very, you know, just your self-esteem was low. And it's just crazy that they can pick up on that. And I'm in this nice area in Chesapeake, Greenbrier. You know, you don't think that that's happening right in our neighborhoods, and it is. So I just think it's important for people to realize, like, it can happen anywhere, not just the bad areas, so to speak. So that was just my comment.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that comment.
You're welcome.
Have a good one. Yeah, that's exactly, it can really be in your grocery store. This is why it's important when I said, you know, when people say, that can never be me, that can never be me. They can catch you at a very vulnerable spot, especially our young women, but I don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Try to just say it's only...
Exclude?
Yeah, exclude everyone. It's not just young women. I'm sure older women, anybody, not just women, men, anybody really could be a victim of this. So, yeah, give us a call, 823-9110. We want to hear more if you are a survivor or if you have any questions. We do have experts here, you know, dealing with human and sex trafficking, 823-9110. And also, if you are a part of a ring and you're stuck and you're a victim and you want help, please call this number. It is the Coordinated Crisis Response phone number. It is 757-251-0144. 251-0144. I'm going to put it on our Facebook. So if you cannot get to your phone right now or what have you, you can always refer to it on Facebook, WNSB Hot 91. That's what we are on Facebook. And DeDe, you are expounding on what this coordinated crisis response was all about. Could you tell the people?
Sure. So what the hotline is it's for anybody for sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, or human trafficking. It is one of the first of its kind in the United States to have that many types of crimes that can call in on one phone number, and it's awesome because anybody can call in. You can call in because your child has been exposed to something. You can call in because you're a mom and you're worried about your daughter or your son. You can call in if you're LGBTQ. You can call in if you're transgender. You can call in if any of those categories for you're in trafficking situation or you're being stalked by somebody. And there will be an agency and a person that when they pick up the phone, they're going to direct you to wherever you need to go. And it's the Genevieve Shelter, the HERS Shelter, the YWCA, and Samaritan House. And it's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we don't care when you call. Just call when you can.
And again, that number is 757-251-0144, 251-0144. But if you're not in immediate danger, and you just want to get in on the conversation, we are asking you to do so, 823-9110. Now, we know sometimes, we know how we could be lured into a situation like that. We know how to be vigilant and be cautious and try to avoid it, even though that might not be 100% proof. But on the outside looking in, being an onlooker, being cautious of our surroundings, not being a victim, but just being a good Samaritan. How can we spot an undercover or an unknowing human trafficking situation, if you will? Is there ways to look for that?
So some of the red flags that you're going to be looking for, you're going to look for somebody who might be in a dangerous situation, which it could be like if you have a young person with an older person and clearly they don't look like they should be together. She's got her head down. He's got his head down. They don't want to be there with the other person. They can't make eye contact with somebody. Maybe you met somebody from church and they're telling you that they don't know where they're located at. They don't know how they got here. They don't want to be in the situation, but they don't know how to get out of it. We've had people that it's from the church that we were able to get them some resources. If you are seeing like a nanny, and you only see her at certain hours and certain times and she's not allowed to talk to anybody, she doesn't seem like she really can get out without having the approval of somebody. If you go to a hotel, maybe you're on vacation and you go and you see some young girls and you see a lot of people going in and out of the room, or you see somebody and they're doing your nails, or you're getting your hair cut and the person can't talk to you. They're always looking over their shoulder. They're always making sure what they say they're allowed to say, or you give them a tip and they immediately have to give it to somebody else because it's not their money. It's supposed to go to somebody else. So there's definitely some red flags. If you want to know more or look at more, my agency, we have an awareness campaign, and it's called the Blue Campaign.
Awesome.
And you can Google Blue Campaign, and it will go to a whole bunch of resources. It has videos that you can look at. And if you're trying to learn more, that's a good place to start, because it's going to, if you're like me and you like looking at like visually, and it kind of makes it so that you can see it more. There's a whole series of videos that you can look at.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that's important. Not just worrying about, I can't be a victim, but more like looking out for victims, Sometimes we're in our own little world. We could be right beside somebody who has been kidnapped, who's being trafficked, you just never know. And we're just in our own little world, shopping in the mall, or, worrying about, just getting to our destination and not really looking out for the people, our peers. We're in the same community, in the same state, in the same country, so, I think it's just as much our job as well, as the authorities or whoever to look out, for one another and spot victims. So we know that the Human Trafficking Task Force has been established. So that was a step into the right direction with trying to reduce this type of crime in the area. But what are some other ways that we as in citizens, we as the city or the state, the government, the task force, what can we do to reduce this crime?
Well, the task force is, we have certain different committees, and one we have is our Victim Services Committee, and they're there to kind of bring in all the resources that we can from other outside agencies and other victim services that we can pull to make sure that we don't have victims falling through the cracks. And then we have community outreach. And that's where we're going to be bringing the awareness. And so we're starting to really form up that committee. So kind of stay tuned for us to just, you're going to start seeing a lot more where we can start bringing awareness to communities. So, if you have a community event or anything like that, and you want one of us or somebody from the task force to speak, to start bringing out awareness to the community or to where you are, then we're more than happy to do that, because we just want to make people aware that we do have a task force that's formed. We're still a work in progress, and we're really at the brinks of getting there where we can really fully go out there. But as citizens, we want you to just be aware. And so the awareness will then start bringing people to like the coordinated crisis response, and start getting people to call in and feel more comfortable to call in to start getting that help. So if the community is starting to be aware and just knowing that, these things do happen and it's not always in plain sight, then we can just start bringing more victims and getting more people to call the crisis response hotline. And that is where we need the community. We need the community to start just being more engaged and just knowing that this does exist, and starting putting people in the right direction to get that help.
And having people to change terminology, that it's not just a prostitute, that you have the potential of having a sex trafficking victim. Even when we watch like TV shows, they're still talking about, we feel bad for her pimp held her down and she was stuck in here. But that was a prostitute that happened to, without recognizing and using the correct terminology. She was a sex trafficking victim. There is a difference. There's a difference for being a prostitute, and there's a difference for being a sex trafficking victim. And we need the community to start becoming aware of it. It's not just law enforcement. It's just not one certain section of people that need to be aware of it. It's everybody that needs to be aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you can Google Blue Campaign to learn more about the epidemic that is happening here in our homes. Okay, Hampton Roads is big, but it's not that big. Okay, we have to take care of our home and make sure that we are safe. Go ahead and Google Blue Campaign to learn more about what's happening. Also, before we take this break, I just want to let you guys know that it's so close that some inside information as far as there are a few rings actually here on campus, on Norfolk State University's campus. That's how close it is to home, okay? Everybody, at least one person, at least one person who went to Norfolk State or goes to Norfolk State, or a person who knows a person who goes to Norfolk State. We're home. There are a few rings right here on the campus, and it's a lot of victims here who may be afraid to come up and to speak up for fear of losing, a scholarship or losing tuition or what have you. That's how close it is. If you are that victim or a victim of another ring, it doesn't matter. Give us a call. Call this number, Coordinated Crisis Response, 757-251-0144, 757-251-0144. That is the Coordinated Crisis Response. But to get in on this conversation, you're not in any danger, then give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110. When we return, we'll be continuing this conversation. And I'm going to get it together with my words. I'm all over the place. But it's Friday, so it's a good day. Keep it locked, Hampton Rose Voices. Hot 91, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. Hello there, Hampton Rose Voices. We are at the tail end of it here. And tonight we talked about Find Our Girls, human and sex trafficking. And, the time always goes by so fast. I feel as though we can always go deeper with these topics. But, we get as deep as we can within these 2 hours. I'm sitting here with guest experts Ebony Valazquez and DeDe Wallace. Ebony is from the Virginia Office of the Attorney General. And she is the Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator. And DeDe is from the Homeland Security Investigations. She is the Victim Services Specialist. Ladies, again, thank you for being here and sharing your expertise.
Oh, no problem.
Yes. So, we were having a conversation off air as far as the mentality and the psyche really being maybe the biggest hurdle for trying to get this crime under control, because some of these victims don't even think that they're victims. Mm-hmm. And DeDe, you did tell a jaw-dropping story about a man in prison. Can you expand on that? Just tell the listeners what was happening with that as far as him being a dad.
Sure, absolutely. So we had a case up in Northern Virginia. Actually, we encountered the young girl in Stafford County. She was brought down from Pennsylvania to Stafford to work. And after we started talking to her, we had asked her how she was introduced to the trafficker she was with, her pimp. And it was because of her dad. Her dad was in federal penitentiary. He sold her school photo to a trafficker so that he would put money and get credibility in the jail.
Wow.
Yep.
And that's what we're dealing with. And it's not far away from home, people. It's right here in Hampton Roads. This is why this Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force was actually put into place. Become a part of the conversation while we're still on the air. We have a couple more minutes left. 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110. But if you are a victim and you want help and you can't get help, I have a phone number for you that can actually give you help. Okay, so it is the Coordinated Crisis Response phone number, and that number is 757-251-0144. That is for victims, okay? And I put that on our Facebook page. However, if you are not a victim, but you suspect that somebody may be a victim, or if you're out and about and you see something suspicious, there is a tip line for us. I won't say for you because, I'm going to take this into consideration too. Put this in your phone because you never know what you may encounter when you're out and about. It is the HSI phone number, right? Hotline, tip line?
It is.
Mm-hmm. And that phone number is 866-347-2423. I'm going to say it again, and that'll be on Facebook as well. Again, the tip line, HSI tip line, is 866-347-2423. Okay? Alrighty. So, ladies, last year there was a type of community training. It had teachers there, it had social workers, nonprofit leaders, and nearly 40 others, along with the Norfolk Police Department. And it was kind of like the first of its kind, community training on human trafficking. Did you attend? Did any of you guys attend? You were actually the speaker, you said.
Yes, I was one of the speakers.
Okay, yes. Can you tell us how that was?
Sure. So we brought down, because the Virginia Attorney General's office went into a partnership with the Blue Campaign, which is the one that I talked to you about with Homeland Security. So it's for awareness. And so we came down and we did 4 sessions. We did a session in Newport News, and then we did a session in Norfolk. One session was only for law enforcement, so we went in a little more specifics for cases and other information for them. And then the other one that we did, we talked about for community members. So it was open to anybody who wanted to come and talk. We had a great turnout. We had some really good vested community members that had some really good questions for us. We had probation officers coming. We had social workers, and everybody wanted to make a difference. So it was a great 4 days or 2 days for us to come out and really get a feel of who wants to help, and for the community to be able to talk to us and tell us what they're seeing.
Yeah, that's good. Are we expecting to have another one of those? Do you know?
Absolutely. We are, as for the outreach committee for the task force, we definitely want to bring more awareness, because we feel like if you have a question about it, we want to address it. If you think that you guys can see something and say something, or if you can bring this crime out of the shadows, we want to be there for you. We want to give you answers. We want to give you a voice to talk to us about what you're seeing.
Absolutely. Really quick. So, we often hear sometimes about how black girls or brown black boys and brown boys who are missing, they don't get the same broadcasting type of what's the word I'm looking for? Not promo, but the same type of
recognition,
mm-hmm. Urgency, if you will, when they're missing. Could you guys share your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's I'm trying to get my thoughts together. My thoughts together. And I think it's just more of a cultural type thing, really. And I think that in our community, it's like what we try to keep things kept. Is kind of, we want to kind of keep it in house. We don't want to always, it's cliche for us to go get counseling and things like that. And so I think once, we kind of get our mindset out of that, it's okay to just say it, say, hey, this happened and this happened to me. I think for us, we don't voice it. It's our time to start voicing things and voicing our concerns, and hey, my child is missing too, and start voicing those kind of concerns out there. Then I think it'll start to change around. We just need to start having our strong voice in it.
We definitely need to make sure that everybody talks about it, and it's not something that's hidden. It's not somebody that it's like, well, my child isn't going to look like what we've seen on the news, or my child isn't perfect, so they're not going to care about it. Law enforcement does care about it. We want, if your child is missing, or if you think that your child is having a chance that they're in a relationship that something could happen to them, we definitely don't want it to seem that we're looking at one person and not looking at somebody else. That's absolutely horrific. And as a parent, I would never want that to be in a society like that at all.
Absolutely. We do have go ahead, Ebony.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, and that's when I was saying that we just need to kind of, voice it. Don't think that just because, it's of a color that we can't, that it's not going to be broadcast or it's not going to be recognized. It has happened, but we can't stop that from us speaking out and putting it out there. We can't just allow that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a phone call for our, last few minutes. Hi, 91, can you share your question, comments, or concern?
Yes, I missed the full conversation on the seminar or class that was held on these type of crimes. Mm-hmm. When was it held and where, please? And when would be the next one?
Ma'am, I believe that was in August is when we did the other trainings, and it was held in Newport News in Norfolk. At this time, I don't have a date for a new one, but we definitely want to make sure that if the community is looking for something, that we're going to get it out to you as quickly as we can.
Okay, how would I find out about getting the information once it's out? Where would I go to find the information? On the next seminar or class or whatever that was you had on these types of crimes?
Well, we'll definitely make it an announcement, if not through like law enforcement or community, like through our community outreach subcommittee. We'll just start broadcasting it out. We're hoping to soon develop a website, and that we can definitely, reach back out to the community so that they can look for certain events that's coming out in the community.
Do you guys have a Facebook?
No, we're like I said,
we're old school.
Okay,
yeah. We're just that new that we're developing that, and we're going to get that out there. So just please stay tuned. We'll definitely make sure that everybody in the community gets those events that will be coming up, and that everybody can be a part of it.
Ma'am, when we get that information, now that we're in touch with these ladies, we'll put it on our Facebook. We'll make PSA announcements on air, so you can continue to listen to Hot 91 and follow us on Facebook, ma'am. WNSB Hot 91.
Okay, then. Thank you very much.
No problem. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
You too.
So, just our last thoughts, ladies. It is an epidemic, and it's breaking my heart. And before, I've always heard human and sex trafficking, but I never really was faced to sit down and to hear what's really going on. So just your last thoughts about this epidemic, how we can be a better community, I guess, with it, and, just any last ending thoughts.
I want to say thank you to everybody who's called in that has survived what they have. I have the honor and the privilege of working with human trafficking victims, and they're some of the most courageous men and women that I've ever met. And I think for me, one of the things that I want to make sure that when we talk about this and you start hearing how bad the crimes are, that they understand that we don't use the word broken. You're not broken. You're looking toward a better future. You're working on where you need to be. We don't look at you as broken people. We simply want to if we can be there for you and make a difference, we want to reach out and be that difference for you. We want you out of the shadows. We don't want you to feel alone and isolated.
And for me, just to also just make sure that you get the awareness. Please go to the Blue Campaign and just learn up more about human trafficking, what's out there, and what you can do. Once we get everything up and running, we definitely want you to go to our website and just be able to get those resources. But for right now, just definitely go to the Blue Campaign, get that awareness, and just be more mindful. Start changing mindsets and just start changing your thinking around certain issues that's actually happening right there in your community.
Absolutely. And before we go, I'm going to give you 2 phone numbers that you should have. Okay. Both of these phone numbers is on our Facebook so that you can get it later if you're driving, if you're in danger, if you're a victim and you're around your, what's the correct terminology? Not a pimp, but
a trafficker?
Yes.
The control?
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes. If you are around him or her and you can't get this phone number on your phone or what have you, you can always try to sneak on Facebook and get this phone number. Okay. So the first one is for victims. If you are a victim and you need help, please call the Coordinated Crisis Response phone number. That is 757-251-0144. And the second number is for people who are not victims, but you have a tip for someone who may be a victim, okay? That is the Homeland Security Investigations tip line hotline number. It is 866-347-2423, okay? Continue to follow us on Facebook as we get more information of this very new task force, the Human Trafficking Task Force of Hampton Roads. We will, be putting out information about meetings and seminars and things of that nature. So yes, we are WNSB High 91 on Facebook. Thank you, ladies, for being here. DeDe Wallace from Homeland Security Investigations Victim Services Specialist, and Ebony Valazquez, from the Virginia Office of the Attorney General, Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force Coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, what a conversation. This has been another episode of Hampton Roads Voices. You know to catch that every Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. And I hope you have a great weekend. Keep it locked. It's Hot 91. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB FM. Thank you for listening.